Let's take a look at teams. Many practitioners and scholars find it instructive to distinguish between a group and a team. A team is a small number of people with complementary skills who are committed to a common purpose, performance goals, and approach for which they hold themselves mutually accountable. Others stress the importance of member interdependence on a team, noting that team members must rely on each other and feel accountable to one another in the accomplishment of their goals to be considered a team. Some team characteristics might include members participating in decision making and goal setting, members communicating freely, the team being recognized by others, and members having defined roles. Contemporary teams are very different from those of the past. Teams are much more likely to be ad hoc, called together for a single purpose in a short period, perhaps self-directed without a single manager. All of these factors challenge our traditional assumptions about what constitutes a team. Much work has been done by researchers to identify the characteristics that distinguish high-performing, effective teams. There are 8 characteristics that set the successful team apart. A clear, elevating goal. That is, the goal is understood and seen as challenging to team members. A results-driven structure. Team members must have clear roles, effective communication process, and the ability to use available data to evaluate progress and take corrective action when necessary. Competent members. The team must comprise of members with the right technical knowledge and interpersonal skills to contribute to the team's goal. Unified commitment. Team members must be willing to dedicate effort and energy to the team. A collaborative climate. Team members must develop a climate of trust in one another in order to collaborate. Standards of excellence. High-performing teams have high standards for individual performance and members feel pressure to achieve. External support and recognition. Teams need external reward, but also support in the form of resources necessary for the team to accomplish its work. Principled leadership. Leaders provide the necessary motivation and alignment to complete the team's work. All too often, teams fail in one of these categories. In addition to a new model of teams being used today, many organizations employ special kinds of teams to accomplish tasks. 3 of these are worth noting in detail, which include self-directed work teams, virtual teams, and cross-functional teams. Each of these teams solves a unique set of contemporary challenges in organizations, but it also presents unique difficulties. Self-directed work teams are also frequently referred to as self-managed work teams. Self-directed teams have a long history, but their major rise to popularity came in the 1980s when economic cutbacks resulted in the loss of a middle management layer in many organizations, forcing companies to look for new ways of organizing work. A common myth among leaders is that if the team is given authority, productivity will suffer and laziness will become the norm. In reality, self-directed teams have a wide variety of responsibilities. Making the transition to self-directed teams usually challenges individual and cultural models of work, such as how decisions get made and who is ultimately responsible for productivity and performance. Without significant learning, practice, and attention to team development, self-directed teams and leaders can quickly revert to old habits where leaders direct the team's actions and make decisions. Self-directed work teams require significant leadership commitment, mutual trust, acceptance of new roles, and willingness to invest in the time and money for training and development of teams. The most successful self-directed work teams also have a support structure that encourages their ongoing development. Organizational teams are increasingly diverse and geographically distributed. Such teams are often referred to as virtual teams, defined as teams where members work together through electronic means with minimal face-to-face interaction. Virtual teams may hold few face-to-face meetings, conducting most team meetings through computer-mediated communication or other technology. Coordination of work across physical and time zone boundaries is the central challenge. It can be challenging for members to build trust or to get to know one another on a personal level through electronic technology. There are a few problems that seem to trouble virtual teams more frequently than face-to-face teams. These include violated expectations. Members may find difficulties or differences in the use of different technology, the expression of emotion through technology, or the time it takes one member to respond to another's request. Lack of training and effective use of communication technology. More effective virtual teams make use of available technologies and know how to apply them in an appropriate situation. Lack of effective team leadership. There are special challenges for virtual team leaders who must establish team trust, evaluate and measure progress, and ensure participation, all using distance technology. Some remedies include creating opportunities for dialogue, setting team norms, and training on cultural differences. Cross-functional teams are a response to the increasing complexity of operations in many organizations. A cross-functional team is a small collection of individuals from diverse functional specializations within the organization. Members are not usually part of the same department, but represent varied departments, units, or geographies, and they're often brought together for a defined period to work on a specified project or problem. Functional diversity of membership brings multiple perspectives together to enhance a team's knowledge and problem-solving ability, yet it also means that the teams have trouble finding common ground. Because the projects are not directly related to the members' immediate work, members may have competing responsibilities and varying degrees of immediate management support for participating in organizational initiatives. Having a single team leader who brings the team together can also create confusion for organizational members who now find themselves with two managers who may have conflicting demands. Leaders can develop a team mission so that members can feel a common sense of commitment. Researchers have noted that most teams grow and develop in a common way. One well-known theory of group development proposes that groups appear to experience a five-stage evolutionary process of development. Not all teams will develop according to these stages, and not all will move sequentially from stage to stage. Some teams may find themselves stuck in a stage, or they may revert back to a previous state. Being aware of the stages of team development can help to pinpoint common team problems and suggest interventions to enhance the team's effectiveness and ability to develop to subsequent stages of productivity. Team members explore initial interactions with one another in an orientation period as they begin to build relationships. Communication may be guarded, explanatory, and cautious, and the group is generally highly dependent on the team leader. Members begin to express disagreements with one another and with the leader as members feel more comfortable and safe with the team. Members may try to negotiate the conflicts and move on, or they may become mired in unhealthy conflict. In norming, the group attempts to manage some of its conflicts by coming to an agreement on group norms, roles, goals, and more. There's an increased cohesion, trust, cooperation, and commitment. Team members find synergy and begin to find repeated and successful ways of interacting to achieve group goals in performing. The team begins to see a period of high productivity and accomplishment of its objectives as energy is devoted to work tasks. Finally, adjourning. This is where the team's work is completed and the team may disband or members may leave. Interventions to enhance team effectiveness can come from two general philosophies. Some researchers find it useful to distinguish between team development programs and team interventions. Team development programs proactively encourage teams to develop as healthier groups. These programs employ a training approach to team building that relies heavily on the use of team exercises and simulation. By contrast, team interventions employ a problem-solving approach to team building that helps established work groups identify and address obstacles and constraints to high performance. These are likely to be more reactive than proactive, designed to address a problem that the team is experiencing. The team is often stuck and needs the assistance of a consultant to get unstuck. Whether they address development of a healthy team or team problems, most go by the label of team building. As we'll refer to it here, team building is the activity of attempting to improve a work group's effectiveness at doing its work, maintaining the relationships of its members, and the team's contributions to the wider organizational system. In some circles, team building has come to refer to enjoyable and often relaxed activities in which team members may have fun and learn more about one another outside the work environment. Others may hold an image of team building sessions as a time for members to sit around and criticize one another, delve into personal matters, or just express their feelings about all kinds of issues, many not related to work. Team building has a negative connotation for some clients because it cannot be denied that team building activities often fail to achieve their objective. In fact, some researchers have found that team building interventions have no resulting effect on team performance. Others have found that the team building performance link is a highly complex one. It may also be that team building interventions appear not to have met expectations when we implement them as a one-time, fix-all effort and not as a part of a longer-term strategy. Building a high-performance team takes time. There's a pattern of regression after team building interventions, when team cohesion and unity and energy for collaboration and trusting relationships revert back to old tradition. This is especially true when there's little follow-up after the intervention, no support structure for continuing the changes, no leadership support, and no associated changes in policy or process. All of these post-intervention factors should also be taken into account to ensure successful team building intervention. Two widely used data gathering methods specific to teams are the Team Diagnostic Survey and the Team Diagnostic Meeting. Team diagnostic surveys vary significantly but usually ask team members to individually rate the team on such items as clarity in group goals, roles, decision-making strategies, and conflict management. Many practitioners design customized surveys of this sort depending on the team's current needs. A second data gathering method, a team diagnostic meeting, allows the group itself to assess its own functioning, usually face-to-face. In an open environment of self-evaluation, with or without a facilitator, team members discuss the team's strengths and weaknesses, and they design their own action plans to address them, which may involve one or more team-building intervention. The chief advantage of this method is that the group itself owns and chooses its own categories of analysis without relying on a predetermined category of a survey. Use of data gathering or diagnostic methods, such as these, can help narrow the team-building intervention to the highest priority areas of concern to the team. There are a wide variety of team-building interventions, and most consultants adapt them based on the needs of the team. In many organizations, teams are formed, and when they work, evolve, and disband, members move along to other projects. This, in fact, is one of the major advantages of teams, because members' skills and experiences can be combined to tackle a problem or situation and then move them to another team and another problem. Without conscious attention to the initial stages of team formation, many teams will flounder for an extended period until they sort out the team's purpose, team member roles, and working relationships on their own through trial and error. Team startup, for new teams, or transition meeting interventions in the case of new leaders, can be both effective interventions to start teams off quickly. Because the teams are new, startup and transition intervention designs generally emphasize developing structure and providing boundaries for discussions to avoid the team becoming overwhelmed. Frequent breaks away from the team development may be useful to allow the team to have a chance to experiment. Confrontation meetings consist of half-day to day-long session of any type of team and is similar to diagnostic meetings. It's more effective with intact teams that have worked together for some period versus new teams that don't have an extended history. In a confrontation meeting, the team examines its own effectiveness and health, and it develops action plans to address major areas of ineffectiveness and dissatisfaction. In periods of stress following major organizational changes, there tends to be much confusion and energy expended that negatively affects productivity and organizational health. The rapid nature of the confrontation meeting allows for an effective gathering and sharing of data without the extended time and expense of an organization wide survey. The confrontation meeting can have the advantage of encouraging participation and ownership by team members. This approach can fail if team leaders do not listen to or accept input from team members. Whether team members have worked together at length or are just starting, roles are a frequent area of confusion. The result can be team members finding themselves in a frustrating position of not knowing how various pieces of work fit together to achieve an overall objective. Role conflict, one team member, occurs when a team member holds two mutually incompatible roles. Role conflict for multiple team members occurs when team members hold the same role and these are in conflict with another. Role incompatibility occurs when there are incompatible expectations about a given role. Role overload describes the situation when a person has too many roles to fill, such as sitting on multiple committees and being expected to act as a liaison between all of them or to participate on the project team and all sub-teams. Role underload occurs when a role is not fully developed enough for significant work or responsibility. Role ambiguity occurs when the role owner or team members are unclear about the responsibilities of a given role. A role negotiation exercise, responsibility charting, can help teams resolve confusion, conflict, and frustration about roles. Work redesign answers the question, how can work be structured so that it's performed effectively? When jobs are designed well, people find them more motivating and contribute more effectively to the outcomes than the team seeks. Some tasks are best done by individuals, but that's especially complex tasks are usually best performed by teams. That's true only if the team and task are well designed. One model of work or group effectiveness defines three criteria to look for in effective work groups. Team membership, goals, and individual jobs on a team can be assessed on these three dimensions. The level of effort brought to bear on the group or task. The composition of the group is important in terms of a design feature that will contribute or inhibit a group's effectiveness. If team members are not trained for the tasks they're asked to perform, they'll be frustrated and productivity will decline. And if the team has too many members, each member will likely not have a significant enough task to perform. Several principles can help consultants work with teams to design tasks more effectively. Skill variety can be increased by combining work tasks so that team members do not always perform the same routine tasks over and over, but have an array of activities to reduce monotony and make use of different skills. Task identity and significance can be increased by forming work units so that the same person performs related activities. Work can be made more meaningful when team members have contact with other customers or clients. Autonomy increases when jobs are vertically loaded. That is, when team members take a greater responsibility for both a larger number of process steps as well as the authority to decide when and how work will be accomplished. Managers often have feedback or data about a team's performance that they do not share for whatever reason. Making this information available to the team can increase motivation. Very little impact will be achieved if the group is not supported in the context of the organizational system. Workout is a problem-solving methodology that was originally developed at General Electric. The process is for use by single teams, cross-functional teams, or multiple functions. On a team, a workout can be a powerful intervention to encourage participation and willingness to initiate an organizational change. The purpose of a workout is to identify and eliminate unnecessary work. Team members process improvement opportunities, can take responsibility for designing solutions and proposing changes to senior management. Planning the workout session begins with the selection of an appropriate business problem, usually involving a process where results are unsatisfactory. Team members are selected who have a stake in the outcome and energy to contribute, and a workout is planned for 1 to 3 days, during which the process will be redesigned or other changes will be proposed. The workout session itself generally follows a 5-step process. Participants learn about the purpose, goals, and structure of the workout. All participants are encouraged to develop and implement a wide range of solutions and not to focus on defending one's own function or territory. Small groups develop lists of ideas about what the workout should accomplish. Groups identify their top 10 ideas and post them for others to read. Teams are formed to expand on the ideas that were described, identifying actions that should be taken and changes that should be made. A project sponsor and timeline are also identified. A town meeting is the opportunity for workout participants to present their ideas to senior management. Participants describe the change desired and potential costs, risks, and benefits to the organization of making the change. Following the workout session, senior leaders check on the initiative progress on a regular basis. Why would teams experience conflict when they're part of the same organization and dedicated to its larger purpose? One research study identified as many as 250 unique types of intergroup conflict in organizations, in categories such as economic differences, beliefs, past injustice, egocentrism, and communication. It may also be the case that simply dividing up into groups and functions with unique identities and team or department names actually creates seeds of intergroup conflict. Over time, members come to perceive other teams as threats, perceptions that feed anxiety and hostility towards other teams. They begin to develop more cooperative and cohesive relationships with their own team members. The objective of an OD intervention in these circumstances is to reduce the inter-team conflict by breaking down barriers between teams and encouraging the development of shared identity and improving cooperative process. Researchers have demonstrated a reduction in inter-team conflict through several means. Increase intergroup conflict. More communication among group members alone is not sufficient to completely resolve intergroup disputes, especially those who are long-standing or particularly hostile. Implement a superordinate goal. Conflict is reduced when teams come together to reach a goal that's important to the team and when team members witness members of the other team working hard on an interdependent task. Recategorize. This involves finding or highlighting the common identities that both teams share. For example, stressing how team members are all part of the same organization. Exchange team members. Teams may develop a rotation program or invite members of other teams to observe or attend team meetings. This can increase understanding and appreciation of how other teams work and can also provide opportunities for learning. To reduce very hostile union management conflicts, the intervention consists of 8 activities over a 2-day meeting. Led by a third party, the objective is increased understanding of the other and dedication to improving the relationship. The session should be a first step in reduction of conflict and launch further work on specific differences. Each group meets separately to develop 2 lists. The first list is the team's description of how it sees itself, especially as the group relates to the other group. The second list is the team's description of the other group. The development of the group's self-image is an important step in the group examining its own motivations and actions. Group members begin to jointly confront the idea that they're a contributor to the relationship with the other. The lists are exchanged. The 2 groups can now compare their self-image with how the other group sees them, and they can begin to point to areas of similarity and difference. Each group has time to ask clarifying questions of the other group. The urge to deny the other group's interpretation will be strong, but members are asked to seek understanding and elaboration of the images first. Groups return to their separate spaces with 2 questions. What is it that we do that has contributed to the image of the other group that they have of us? And what is it in our own beliefs and actions that leads us to the conclusion we've reached about ourselves? Each group exchanges its diagnostic lists with the other. A joint dialogue is then held in which members analyze diagnosis, share additional insights, and possibly reinterpret past actions. The groups develop a list of remaining key issues in the relationship to be resolved. These might involve changes to meeting structures to enhance communication, clarification of underlying value differences, or a commitment to trust. This might involve the leaders or task force holding a series of meetings to resolve the issues. There are several variations of these type of interventions. In one variation, the groups have the opportunity to hear each other's discussion about them firsthand rather than in list form. Yet, it can also be risky where the issues are especially contentious. In another approach to intergroup conflict, the authors use a task force comprising members both of teams find agreeable. The task force is given the responsibility of resolving some of the obstacles to working together. Issues might be resolved quickly in this design, but because not all members are involved, acceptance of task force recommendations might be minimal. In all cases, a structure should be designed to resolve future disputes, perhaps through the use of a task force or review board that meets regularly to assess team relationship. In addition, there are times when a team may have conflicts with one or more other teams, or a team may desire feedback on how it's perceived. In these cases, representatives from other groups are invited to participate in the dialogue. Finally, a microcosm group is a new group comprising a sample of individuals from the entire organizational population. Such groups break down the boundaries often crafted by different organizational structures.